I'd like to talk about the correct way to take prescription sleep medications. This is a common problem that patients run into where initially they're prescribed medications and they do well, the medications are effective. Invariably, they develop tolerance to the effects of those sedative medications, and even after several rounds of dosage escalations, they end up on a dose beyond which it would not be prudent to further increase the dosage of the medication, and yet they're still not sleeping. And a lot of that has to do with physiologic tolerance, the development of physical tolerance to these medications. There are specific mechanisms whereby the body downregulates receptors, and the same dosage of a particular hypnotic agent is no longer effective at inducing sleep, and that can't be avoided. It can be minimized by taking the lowest dose possible, modulating the dosage, taking more when one needs more, but less when one needs less. If you're already tired by the end of the day and you don't anticipate having as much trouble falling asleep because you're exhausted, whether it's because you've had a long day or maybe didn't get good sleep the night before, then it's prudent to take less medication. And by modulating the dosage, by varying the dosage, one avoids the development of physical tolerance, or at least forestalls it. Taking breaks from the medication is another way to lose tolerance and regain efficacy. But for those individuals who need a sleep aid every night, not taking the medication or taking significantly less of it is not useful because they're left with the symptom of insomnia, which is why they're taking medication in the first place. But a lot of the problems that patients run into in terms of losing efficacy from their hypnotics has to do with sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is a term that refers to the lifestyle factors and the patterns of behavior that occur surrounding bedtime that are conducive or not conducive to sleep. So common sense things like avoiding caffeine and other stimulating medications. For some elderly people, not drinking so much water that they have to get up in the middle of the night to avoid their bladders. Exercise, heavy meals. There's a lot of different factors that affect different people in different ways in terms of whether they're conducive to sleep or whether they're counterproductive. And ambient conditions are included in that. So the room temperature, sometimes people need a little white noise. All of that has to be tailored to the individual. But in terms of how to properly take a prescription sleep aid, the mistake that people often make that hastens the development of physical tolerance and therefore the loss of efficacy is that when they first take a prescription sleep aid and it's dosed according to their body weight and according to the severity of their insomnia and other medications they may be taking, including stimulants that they take in the mornings or other medications that assist with sleep that are being taken in the evenings, such as antidepressants with antihistaminergic properties or antihistamines for other indications, or other medications that are sedating that they may be taking in combination with their sleeping pill. When they first start taking that medication, it's effective, they feel sleepy, and they're able to go to sleep. But then as they continue to take the medication, particularly those patients who take it on a nightly basis, they begin to develop tolerance to the sedative effect of that agent. The agent still helps to reduce anxiety, to help clear the mind. Those agents that have muscle relaxing properties retain those properties. And so while a given dose may no longer make an individual feel particularly sleepy or as sleepy as when they first started taking the medication at that dosage, it's still useful to assist them to drift off to sleep if the conditions are permissive. So if they're in bed, if the ambient conditions are such that they can fall off to sleep, and if they're not doing something else like watching television or staring at their smartphones or engaging in conversation, then they'll be able to drift off to sleep, but the medication is no longer forcing them to sleep. And so patients that take their medication an hour or more before they expect to be asleep or even in bed are actually working against how these medications are designed to work and how they best work. Similarly, you shouldn't take your sleeping pill and then go brush your teeth and then go check your email. You should take it 15 to 20 minutes before you need to be asleep. Assuming that you're on an empty stomach, you will absorb that medication in 10 to 15 minutes and it will peak within the hour, and you want to be in bed when that dosage is peaking in terms of blood concentration, the level of medication in your system. You want to take all of the medication all at once to have a single peak, as opposed to redosing, as opposed to taking your medicine and getting up later and taking a little bit more when 2 hours later you're not asleep. And you really want to take it rolling over, getting into position, and letting the medication assist you into falling asleep. It will always relax you. It will always help you to do all of the other things you need to do to get to sleep and ultimately stop thinking. When you are lying down and when your mind goes blank, you will drift off to sleep, assuming that there aren't competing stimuli. But those patients that expect a sleeping pill to knock them out, those patients that first start taking it and immediately start to feel sleepy and they're forced to go find the bed and turn the TV off, if they expect that same phenomenon to continue indefinitely, they're setting themselves up for resistance to medication, because fairly quickly, within a matter of days to weeks, depending on whether they also drink alcohol on a regular basis, because there's cross tolerance there, and depending on whether they're also dosing sedative hypnotics during the day in smaller doses to ward off anxiety. Patients that are in the habit of doing that will often accelerate the development of tolerance. If Xanax isn't putting you to sleep during the day, it's not going to put you to sleep during the night, even if you're taking significantly higher doses. And because there is a limit to these medications, we can't continue to increase them indefinitely, because it becomes then dangerous in terms of withdrawal. There is a limit. We can combine sedative medications and we can combine mechanisms of action, but it's important that patients have good sleep hygiene and that they take the medications not only responsibly but strategically, and that they do not take the medicine simply to unwind hours before bedtime, and they don't take the medicine and then remain active waiting for the medicine to make them feel so sleepy that they have no other choice but to find the bed. That is exactly the way to court resistance, and that is why patients return to clinic even after we've increased the dosage of their sleeping pill 2 or 3 times on a large dose of a hypnotic agent, reporting that they continue to experience insomnia. It's about expectations. It's about sleep hygiene. If you're not the slightest bit sleepy after 4 milligrams of Ativan, then you have a significant physical tolerance that could be dangerous in withdrawal. More commonly, individuals simply aren't necessarily intensely sleepy at these high doses. But if they were in bed, and if they had good sleep hygiene, and if they were being judicious about not stimulating themselves and not doing things that interfere with 4 milligrams of Ativan, or 3, I never prescribed 4, then they would not have the ongoing problem, which is not to say that it still might not be a challenge, or that it still might not take some time to achieve sleep. But to be completely refractory to that dose means that it's being taken improperly, or there is significant tolerance because of the overuse, the misuse, or perhaps the co-administration of other medications and substances which are cross-tolerant.